Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are taking the ultimate shortcut, you could say, into a philosophy that's really aimed at shaking up how we think about love, healing, and, well, personal growth.
Yeah, our source materials today are all focused on this whole world, built by author Blaize On'Fyah and his 555 Relationship podcast.
Right, the platform itself, it's presented by Royal Love Entertainment, and it promises, to be the safe space to unpack the really messy journey of connection, pushing listeners past the kind of stale, outdated advice towards what the author actually calls fabulous, fulfilling, and fire relationship.
Yeah.
So our mission today is basically to pull out the core nuts and bolts of this whole philosophy. Okay, let's maybe unpack this. What's the radical mission behind it all? Why does it need such a strong name?
Well, what's fascinating here is that the mission is, it's very focused and it's deliberately challenging. The main goal they state is really twofold.
Okay.
First, promoting genuinely healthy relationships, and crucially, ending what they often call the gender wars.
Gender wars.
Yeah.
Okay, what do they mean by that exactly? Because that sounds pretty intense.
It is. When the author uses that term, gender wars, they're specifically talking about that societal conflict, that, pervasive cynicism that happens when men and women just keep projecting their past pain onto each other.
Okay. Like a cycle.
Exactly. The philosophy argues this cycle is pretty much the #1 barrier to finding those fire relationships. So the whole approach is geared towards helping people stop fighting the symptom, the arguing,
Right.
and actually get to the root of their issues, which they say is always internal.
So for you listening, you're essentially walking away from this deep dive with the foundational principles that, well, they go beyond just basic advice and really demand a significant amount of internal, maybe sometimes painful self-work first.
Definitely. That self-work is key.
And that internal work, it starts right away with the core philosophy.
Yeah.
It operates on this principle of live and let live, and it sets up 3 non-negotiables right at the start, things that have to be secure before any real relationship building can even begin.
Okay, what are those?
Putting God first and loving yourself.
Okay, putting God first, loving yourself. Now, this is where it seems to diverge a bit from typical self-help, right? Because it's easy to just say love yourself.
Sure.
But for someone listening who's maybe dealing with immediate trauma or confusion, how do the sources suggest they actually practically do both of those things at the same time?
That's a really powerful point. The sources seem to suggest it's more about a process, maybe a sequencing. The self-love part means really acknowledging your own worth and critically dedicating time to heal past hurts, past trauma, before you even think about inviting someone new into that space.
Right. Heal first.
Exactly. A healthy relationship can be wonderful, the sources say, but only if that necessary surgery to healing happens first.
Yeah, and if we connect this to the bigger picture, it feels like it's about breaking that cultural pressure, the pressure to just couple up immediately, regardless of where you're at personally. And here's a kind of surprising insight from the material. The philosophy explicitly states that not everyone has to be in a romantic relationship to be fulfilled.
That's huge, actually.
It is. That single idea can offer massive relief, validating the choice to just focus on your own self-worth first, if that's what you need.
Okay, so healing first, self-love, no pressure to partner up.
Right. And here's where it gets really interesting. Accountability.
The A word.
Exactly. The philosophy puts critical importance on accepting accountability for the part you played in past issues. Now, this isn't about blaming the victim, let's be clear.
Okay.
It's framed as empowerment. The source material argues you must accept the 50% you contributed, the choices you made, maybe the poor boundaries you had, because that acceptance gives you the power to make a better choice next time.
And that demand for looking inward, for self-reflection,
Yeah.
it comes with a warning too, right, about judging others.
Yeah.
Basically ending that cycle of projection you mentioned.
Absolutely. It connects directly to one of the book titles, Lovers and Haters, the Accountability Edition.
Okay.
The sources explicitly stress that listeners should not unfairly label people based on old pain. They really emphasize this phrase. Understand that all women and all men did not hurt you.
No, all caps, they mean it.
They do. It's like a direct command for patience and observation. If you just generalize, you're basically stuck in those gender wars you're trying to get out of.
That makes sense. So you have to stop projecting your past onto every new person.
Precisely. The actionable tip here is to recognize that your emotional boundaries are paramount. You have to be patient, take the time you need, heal properly, and then get to know yourself and others at your own pace. Always trusting your gut feeling.
Right.
And this deep dive really reveals that this time out period, this healing phase, it's essential for learning to tell the difference between someone's true intentions and just, performative charm.
Okay, so if the accountability piece, accepting your 50%, is like the required surgery, what does this philosophy prescribe for the recovery, the physical therapy, so to speak? What's the practical external checklist for building something solid once that internal work is actually happening?
Yeah, this is exactly where the internal healing meets the critical external vetting process. The philosophy is really clear on this. Once you are healthy, you should only seek out partners who are willingly and consistently growing with you in a healthy way.
Okay, willingly and consistently. That sounds key.
It is, and the framework defines 4 non-negotiable essential pillars of connection. These have to be present and they have to be reciprocal to build that solid foundation.
Right, let's hear them. The 4 pillars.
Okay, first, respect. Second, honest communication. Third, loyalty. And fourth, reciprocation.
Respect, honest communication, loyalty, reciprocation. Okay, that list seems fairly straightforward on the surface, but let's maybe dig into that 4th one, reciprocation.
Yeah.
Because that feels like something that often trips people up in modern dating. How does the author define that? What does that exchange look like?
That's a great point. Reciprocation in this context isn't passive at all. It's the active demonstration of shared effort.
Active. Okay.
Yeah, it means matching energy and commitment. Not just in, affection, but also in vulnerability, in growth. If one person is doing all the heavy lifting emotionally or all the communication or all the planning.
Yeah, that's exhausting.
Exactly. Then the foundation is inherently weak. This philosophy insists that genuine interest has to be shown through sustained, mutual effort across all 4 pillars. If that effort isn't mutual consistently, then it's just not a solid foundation, period.
And this commitment to mutuality, to shared effort, brings us to probably the sharpest language used in the source material, doesn't it? That definitive term for people who refuse to engage in this kind of reciprocal growth.
The author calls them a hater and blessing blocker.
Blessing blocker. Wow. Okay, that's intentionally strong language.
It is. And understanding why they use it is critical. The term blessing blocker isn't just meant as an insult. It's framed as a necessary mechanism for setting and holding emotional boundaries.
How so?
Well, if someone is consistently unwilling to respect your healing journey or communicate honestly or show loyalty or reciprocate your effort, the philosophy basically dictates they are actively blocking the positive change, the blessing that your own internal work is trying to attract into your life.
So it's protective.
Exactly. The author is essentially telling you, the listener, look, if you've done the hard internal work of accountability and healing, you absolutely must protect that progress.
Makes sense.
Therefore, anyone who doesn't consistently meet those 4 foundational pillars is, by definition, an impediment to your growth, and they need to be released. It's actually a very pragmatic, protective way of defining who is genuinely worth keeping around in your close circle.
Okay, so if we connect this all back to the bigger picture, this philosophy, it seems to blend deep self-help with some really critical vetting tools.
Yes, exactly.
It moves pretty seamlessly from the internal stuff, the accountability, the self-love, to the external checks, like measuring a potential partner against those 4 pillars. It gives the listener a structured way to move forward with maybe wisdom, rather than just blind optimism.
Well put. It's structured wisdom.
And the author hasn't just stopped there, right? They've built this whole infrastructure, this ecosystem, to support people on this ongoing journey. It shows that this relationship philosophy is actually part of a much larger, more holistic value system.
Indeed. The content ecosystem around Blaize On'Fyah is pretty extensive, and it all reinforces the message that healing isn't a one-and-done thing. It's a continuous process.
Right.
We pulled some book titles that really show the scope of the work. Besides that Lovers and Haters 3-book series, which covers finding common ground, accountability, and then the U.S. journey, there are also deep dives specifically into gender wars, titles like Manifest Your Healing, and even discussions on intimacy, like Tantra's Embrace.
So a wide range of related topics.
A very wide range. But I think the title that really encapsulates the core ethos of this whole approach might be The Ugly Side of Healing.
The Ugly Side of Healing. Okay, why that one?
Because it acknowledges a vital truth that often gets glossed over. Recovery, real healing, it isn't smooth, it isn't fast, and it definitely isn't pain-free.
No quick fixes here.
None. It's hard work. And acknowledging that difficulty up front, I think it prevents people from just quitting when the process inevitably gets uncomfortable, which it will.
That recognition of difficulty, yeah, it gives the whole framework a certain emotional depth, doesn't it?
Mm.
And the sources also show that the Royal Love brand, it goes beyond just the relationship advice niche. It demonstrates the author's personal commitment to fostering growth in lots of different ways.
That's right. For instance, you mentioned Royal Love Entertainment earlier. They collaborate with all sorts of artists, authors, comedians, DJs, and apparently maintain a special interest in supporting local Tallahassee, Florida music artists, which reflects the author's own roots.
Okay, interesting. Supporting the community.
And almost as a symbol of this really holistic approach to growth and connection, the sources also briefly mention Royal Love Kennels.
Kennels, like dogs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Which the author seems to use to demonstrate the depth of their royal love commitment extends to caring for and raising life in general. The star of this seems to be a 4-month-old mixed breed dog named Majesty.
Majesty, okay.
Apparently a mix of Chow Chow and Bull Mastiff. The sources even mention a beautiful, shiny black coat with a white patch on his chest shaped like a cross.
Oh.
What's fascinating there is how the brand integrates these seemingly quite different ventures, relationships, entertainment, animal care, all under that single umbrella of royal love. It suggests that the core philosophy of growth, patience, care, it really applies to every single area of life.
That's a really interesting connection.
So, wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you, the listener? This deep dive really shows that the 555 approach, it focuses on tackling the hardest questions head on: intimacy, trust, recovery.
Yeah.
And it offers actionable steps, but they're rooted in deeply personal accountability first. It demands a real commitment to reciprocal growth, and maybe most importantly, a commitment to setting those necessary protective boundaries we talked about. It's really a comprehensive framework, and it's built on that core mandate. You must heal yourself first before you can successfully build something truly fire with another person.
Absolutely. And I think the core challenge presented by this whole philosophy is really about shifting your focus, moving away from blaming external factors or just getting stuck in those endless gender wars.
Right.
And instead focusing on identifying and then actually building with people who are actively and crucially, consistently willing to grow alongside you.
That consistency is key.
It really is. And as we close out today's deep dive, I want to leave you with maybe a final thought, something rooted in the practical application of all this.
Okay.
If the author's framework suggests that anyone unwilling to engage in that healthy reciprocal growth is, in their words, a blessing blocker, and that a truly solid foundation requires those 4 pillars: respect, honest communication, loyalty, and reciprocation. What element of that solid foundation do you find is most often missing, or maybe just the most difficult to maintain in modern relationships today?
That's a good question to ponder.
Definitely something to mull over as you continue on your own journey of building hopefully fabulous, fulfilling, and yes, fire connections.